Hey everybody, on this episode of Crying in My Car, we talk about the infamous phrase, can't fail us all. You ever heard that in your class? Can you fail all the kids? Also, we're going to talk about being friends with your boss. Admin wants to be buddy-buddy. Is that okay or not? And then we talk about a surprising reason why there's not more black teachers in education. You're going to want to stick around to find this out. Crying in My Car starts now. Hey everybody, welcome to Crying in My Car, a podcast for teachers. My name is Devin Siebold. Got James Yan in the house. We are hopefully here to make you laugh and ease that work day stress. Thank you all for supporting us, by the way. I noticed the YouTube views have been going crazy. I'm sure that you all are sharing it and hitting the thumbs up. Even a little comment, like a heart even. Takes 2 seconds to type something. And then be sure to share, too, the Spotify links or your iHeart or wherever you listen to this on the podcast and rate us 5 stars. We definitely appreciate it. And hopefully we're able to provide some laughter for you, some much-needed laughter. The more that I tour with board teachers, the more I see how needed laughter is.
Oh my God.
I mean, they just, it's like you're a miracle worker afterwards, you know, like you almost want to go full on like Mr. Miyagi, like,
there you go.
For coming to the show.
I have seen you walk on water. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's the size 15. They just float.
There you
go. So here's the thing. I wanted to talk to you today about a topic that I've seen at some of these shows. And it's something with teachers that I don't know if it's frowned upon. I know how the real world views it, but I also would like to know what your opinion is on it, James.
Okay.
And I'd love to know the opinions of other teachers in the comments too. When we do these shows, a lot of administrators are there.
Okay.
They'll raise their hand, and it's not, I mean, a lot, I say like maybe in a 1,800, there's 20, but that's a big number, you know, because an admin, I don't know, there's a divide, you know, we see principals and we see teachers, and there's really not a lot of connect. Usually it's butting heads. A lot of schools, though, sometimes have really good relationships with admin, and they love their teachers, and that's great. And I've had, believe it or not, a show that I have coming up in Texas, I actually had an administrator reach out and bought 20 tickets and said, I want to give them to my staff members.
I like that.
That kind of stuff is really cool. That said, I see a lot of principals at these schools, at these events, where they are like friends. And like they're all hanging out with the teachers. And, you know, I think I don't know, it's a divisive topic. Can you be friends with your boss outside of work? And I only say that because I, you know, taught for 13 years.
Okay.
And I remember one teacher specifically who I was in the office going, how is this happening? They had a single prep all day long of honors classes, of the best schedule you could possibly ask for. They had been there for 3 years. I had been there for 11.
Yes.
And I wanted those classes. And there's a seniority when it comes to this kind of stuff.
I'm sure.
And I had highly effective ratings. There was no way that I wouldn't be entitled to those classes if the principal was playing fair. I specifically asked them, I said, so why is he getting the classes that I want? You know what the response was?
I can't wait.
And I was
Can't wait to
blown
hear
away.
this.
I thought it would be, we just randomize it. We this it. Well, he has an arrangement. And I said, arrangement? And they said, yeah, he's got an arrangement. And I was like, can you elaborate on the arrangement? They're like, no, he just has an arrangement. And I'm like, to have the best classes and the best schedule and the lowest class size, and he's only 3 years in, and I would see him all the time in the office, buddying. And I'm like, come on, man, you know? And I wonder sometimes when I see the principal out with the other teachers and they're all friends, I joke about it on stage. I actually have a joke about it. And but I'm there's some truth to it.
Yeah.
You know, are you getting preferential treatment? Is it okay to be friends with the principal? Is kind of what I'm trying to say. And I want you to relate it to not only teaching, but I mean, real world.
I've seen it. I've seen it. Like, I came from the food service industry. I was a catering director at a very popular theme park.
Yeah.
And I would say as a manager, no. And it's not because you don't want to be able to relate to your employees, but it's not a good idea because there's a line that needs to be drawn between you and your employees. Meaning, I am your leader, and there's certain things I can't do with you because it would look like favoritism. You can't have that kind of relationship and make it look fair to everyone around you.
Yeah,
you can't do it.
Even if you are playing fair,
yes,
I think there's always the illusion of unfairness.
That's correct. So if
it's like, I mean, think about this. You're a teacher at the school.
Yep.
You pull up your Instagram and you see your co-teachers hanging out with the principal at an out-of-work event with, drinks and having fun. I mean, do you feel like you're going to ever get a leg up or have a fair evaluation compared to them?
No. But I do want to make a distinction.
But
there is something different between hanging out with your employees and a team building event.
Yeah. Okay.
Team building events are great. That's how you get to know your staff, and it doesn't look like favoritism.
Okay, that might be more seen like a team building.
Yes,
event.
You find a location, some kind of activity that you all can do, and
like a comedy show,
like a comedy show
with James and Devin, in Kansas City and Des Moines and Omaha.
But honestly, I mean, if you really want to connect with your employees, find a way to do it where it's fair to everybody. Everyone's invited. Everyone's invited. That's how you do it. Because if you only have a select few that you hang out with, that's favoritism. It's going to always look that way. So I would suggest, coming from management, you got to be very careful with how you have relationships with the people that work for you.
Right. Because
anything can happen. Yeah. And when that relationship goes sour, you better believe the work relationship is going to be affected. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen it go bad.
Gotcha. See, so I have a funny story for you, James.
Okay.
I was hired as the director of a summer camp.
Oh, okay.
And I was over the men's side.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, this is dream job.
Look at you.
And my fiance at the time was hired as director over the women's side. And I was like, awesome. Yeah, this is going to be great. No, because we'll work together.
We're
would think. Co-bosses.
Yeah. That's what relationships are.
James.
Yes, sir.
Week before summer camp starts,
she
gets demoted. I'm her boss. The first time that I pulled up in my golf cart, she did not get a golf cart. And I said, hey, can you fill up the water coolers for the kids over in the soccer section? The look of... I was like, I got it. Don't worry about it. I was just heading there myself.
You know what? Let me get that.
Needless to say,
it
really put a wedge between our relationship.
Absolutely.
That boss employee, and obviously this is different, but yeah, to sum it up, I kind of, when I go to these shows, now I can see it more of as a team building thing.
Yeah, it would have to be. Yeah. So I would suggest to all the principals out there, admin who are listening, invite everyone at the school. We should go support these other teachers. Make it an event where you can get to know everyone in a way that doesn't look like you're giving favoritism.
Yeah.
That's it.
And also, I'm going to also add something to this. And I don't know if you think of this stuff, but I like to think of everyone.
Yeah.
Admin, be aware you make more money. Because sometimes I see admin like up front, and I think that's great. They can, but if you're making it a team building thing, don't force everybody to buy the premium seats.
Yes.
It just go, hey, I got a team building thing. Why don't we grab a corner in the back and we'll all get, you got to be conscious of everybody's budget. Because sometimes, teachers might be on a much more tight budget than you. Yeah. And saying, hey, I'm going to get us tickets. By the way, I'm thinking row 1, seat 1 to Drake. They're $480. $40. Everybody's in, right? You know, it's like, well, you know what? I'll tailgate in the parking lot.
If you could just turn your phone on when it starts.
I mean, because so just be more socially aware, I think, in terms of that. But they're all happy. I'm not trying to knock anybody. I think it's just, I speak from personal reflection. I couldn't imagine maybe it's just because I've never worked in a school that you're like, oh my gosh, these are friends and cool people. I think rural schools is probably a lot more, everybody knows each other.
And it could be the situation, let's say you're a teacher, fellow teachers were friends already, but then one of us gets promoted within the school and one of us becomes, like you'd be like, well, we're still friends, but you have to learn to navigate that relationship in a different kind of way, though.
But that's kind of like you either live to see yourself become the enemy. You know, kind of thing.
If you fight long enough, you become the enemy. Yeah, there you go.
You know, but I think it's cool to see them. I've enjoyed all the tours. By the way, the teacher tour for board teachers just wrapped up, but we're coming back in August. So we got a full slate of shows in August. We're going to be in Springfield, Missouri on August 8th, Columbia, Missouri, August 9th, Mulvane, Kansas on August 10th, and then rounding out that run with Tulsa, Oklahoma on August 11th. Do not forget to check those out. Boardteachers.com has all the upcoming tour dates, and trust me, it's going to be a good time. I've been doing a lot of new material, been working on some things, trying some stuff out. Now, one thing before I get into the teachers in the news that I want to talk about, what's so funny to me, though, is we're all teacher comedians, and we've all taught. And it's hysterical because as a comic, what are you supposed to write? You're supposed to write things you know.
That's right.
Things you've experienced. Observational humor. Liz was on the tour, and she's still on the tour,
Shout
by the
out
way.
to
She
Liz,
didn't
by
get
the way.
fired.
Yeah.
Not was on the tour. Is on the tour. She was at the show with us in San Jose, and she's like, you know, I'm really working on this new bit, and she like describes it, and I go, that's my new bit, and she's like, what? And she goes, are you serious? I say, yeah, and she starts describing. Liz was not copying me.
No.
Liz, it's not even like a matter. It's
Parallel
something
thinking.
no, not even that. It's so funny to me that the comedy that we experience as teachers happens to everyone. That's why I think these shows are so popular, is I will tell a joke about something that happened in my classroom. And it has happened in 98% of the classrooms in that place. As wild as the story is, I always have teachers go, same. and that's the funny thing, is Liz is telling this story and it's hysterical. And I go, yeah, that's my joke. And it also happened to me. And she's like, what? You know?
What's the odds?
Yeah. Pretty high.
All right. Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, so you can come to the tour and see me or Liz do the joke. And it's really good.
Can I thank them really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank all you teachers who've been still reaching out and starting to follow me. It's been great, especially all the new people, because me and Devin had a chance to be on the Teachers Off Duty podcast.
That's true.
And that went really well. I get to see layers peeled back of what goes on behind the scenes with teachers more and more. And that was another eye-opening experience for me, to learn all the stories that you guys experience in the classroom. So thank you guys so much for the kind words that you've been dropping in comments. I love you guys for that. Thank you.
Especially working with Bree. She's so
Bree's
passionate.
hilarious, man.
She's passionate.
I would go to her class just to see her teach.
I would too, because I've never seen it. No, every she's on TikTok.
So
all the
hilarious.
Time. So, anyways,
She's got to come out of her shell one day.
One day.
Yeah.
All right. This is Teachers in the News. Let's jump into the Teachers in the News. I went to this article and I was like, oh my goodness. I never really thought of it that way. But I do know the problem. I just never thought about the source of the problem. In America, it says there's a surprising reason. This is the title of the article. There's a surprising reason why many schools don't have a single black teacher.
Oh, wow.
And when you think about it, I've known this for a long time. The school system is predominantly white teachers, even in areas that are predominantly black. I
didn't know that.
There are a lot of white teachers. I taught in a majority. We were 93% minority in terms of students.
Yes.
Faculty was probably 20% minorities. And and of those 20%, probably 3% were black. And they were mostly coaches.
Well, I just realized something. You are absolutely right. I just went to a pre-K graduation. It was in Brevard County, predominantly black school. All the teachers I remember were white.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it until you said that.
Yep.
Man.
So it's wild.
Yeah.
I know the statistics. I know of why that. I know of. So I know the what.
Okay.
I don't know the why.
Okay.
A lot of times we go, oh, it's this reason, oh, it's that reason. Well, this article on USA Today just blew my mind because it was something that I didn't even think of as being the actual root cause. And the root cause, they say, is the reason that we have so few black teachers is actually Brown versus the Board of Education.
Really?
And I
Explain that, yeah.
This is coming from black scholars that have dug into this. In 1954, the Supreme Court ruled that obviously separating children based on race in public schools was unequal and inherently violated the rights of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment.
Yes.
Here's the thing. When they did that, at the time when we did have segregated schools, black teachers made up 35 to 50% of the workforce in the 17 states with segregated school systems.
I did not know that.
When you desegregated the schools, you handed the power over of the hiring to the white groups that were the white superintendents, the white HR reps, the white, the higher ups were all white. And the schools had to be integrated. So where did the black jobs go?
Okay.
They didn't hire them.
That makes so much sense because the people that were in charge are white. They had a law that changed everything, but you didn't change the way people thought.
No.
You didn't change their prejudices. You didn't change,
Right.
Favoritism. You didn't change any of that stuff. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and so I never even put that two and two together. And they said a lot of the black educators were discouraged and said,
Yes.
all right, I have to go elsewhere. And they're trying to get into the school system and going, I want to be a teacher, but they weren't being hired at the same rate as white teachers,
Yes.
obviously, during that time. So you created a field where one time they were 50% of the workforce. When you squeeze most of the black educators out, then it's a very slow of them getting back in.
That's right.
In terms of opening those doors and letting down those walls that were built by the racism before it. But it's a very interesting dynamic here. This USA Today article, and it's one thing that I didn't even think of.
I didn't think of that either, to be honest.
It was an unintended consequence.
Because when you first said it, I'm like, well, let's see where you're going with this.
But yeah, and especially now we've got a lot of diversity and inclusion program cuts across the board. We're finding that is kind of being met with pushback. And it says also the U.S. schools face a pipeline issue with representation in leadership roles. So you still have predominantly white overseers of this entire education that aren't letting minorities in.
It's gotten better, but there's still work to be done.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. But so it's by the way, a USA Today article. There's a lot more there. I didn't cover it all. I just was taken back by it. I
would love to hear people's comments on this, by the way, especially black educators. What do you think about that actual viewpoint?
Yeah, it's
I never thought about it in that way.
The thing that you think of as a solution sometimes can cause more problems. But, it's one of those things that I've always thought of Brown versus Board of Education as a positive thing.
Such a positive thing.
And then you look at the statistics and you go, 35 to 50% were black?
Yeah.
And now, what are we down to? 12? It's like, So we just toured through San Diego. And I was really happy about this. Apparently, there was an announcement in San Diego that they were going to fire or lay off a bunch of teachers. And apparently, they have decided to rescind that and said that the school board and the union worked together. There were 234 notices of layoffs that they were giving. The school board worked with the union on a new agreement, and they have rescinded all of them but 9.
Okay, that's worth clapping for. All right,
Yeah.
great, nice.
So that's really cool. Unfortunately, it did say that 60 classified non-educator employees are still set to be laid off. But it's definitely less than apparently the 240 that they were expected to lay off. And a lot of teachers obviously now can sleep well at night knowing, hey, I'm getting my job. I'm keeping my job. Yeah. So
well, it's surprising because I hear all the time there is a teacher shortage. There's a teacher shortage. So do you know the why behind getting rid of that many teachers?
yeah, I know exactly why. COVID money.
Ran
During
out.
COVID, we just pumped the schools full of cash, and a lot of them hired much needed positions. And now we've run out of that cash. And it's sad because they knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And they didn't budget correctly. Now teachers are on the chopping block,
Got it.
and it's really unfortunate because it's just preventable. And also the federal government still can fund it. That's the thing that bothers me the most is like we go, oh, that was COVID money. Can it be permanent money?
Yeah.
Maybe. I
Yeah.
mean, it kind of helped.
Yeah.
So maybe let's keep doing that.
You know what's important? Our child's education. How about that?
All right, next one. Pittsburgh area teacher has created a adaptive menu at the Cranberry Township restaurant. A teacher apparently works as at a local restaurant as well. Surprise. And apparently it works behind the bar. Now, the majority of the time, however, is at a life skills center. She works with all different types of students. Students that the name's Jordan, by the way, Jordan Wiley. I want to make sure I'm saying it correctly.
Okay.
Jordan Wiley works with all different kind of students and says that hey, they have physical needs, they have communication needs. I understand that there are people out there like my students. And when they go to a place like where I work, my second job, she said it would be nice if they were accommodated as well. So apparently she has worked with her local restaurant that she worked at and created adaptive menus to help students or to help people order easier.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly what it says. They're photos. They're completely able to order themselves. There's basic communication board. You give them a choice. So it sounds to me like it's a much more visual friendly menu.
Makes sense.
And not full of just words,
Gotcha.
Endless words.
Gotcha.
It's one of those things where you don't even think that you need it, but you might need it.
Okay.
Somebody else might need it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think of it kind of like when I go to like a French restaurant and I'm like, I've never seen these words before. If only there was a large photo.
Yeah.
It would be great to have some sort of and to make every menu that easy for people that might have a little bit difficulty with all of the words and all of the phrases on there that you take for granted. You go, I already know that. Well, somebody else might not.
Might not. Or as a guy that loves food, as you can see, apparently, I do. I eat with my eyes. So I would much prefer a picture of what the food's going to look like.
Yeah.
That helps me make my decision like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get that.
Yeah.
Because, we go to theme parks a lot, and there are certain festivals that happen with food. And then when you see the picture, you're like, oh, yeah, that's what I'm going to eat.
In fact, that's funny you say that because there will literally be a description in the book, and I read it, and I go, no. And then I walk to the booth, and I see it, and I go, yes.
Exactly right.
4 of those, please.
For you and who else?
Yeah.
Just me.
But again, this
Yeah.
is not a matter of necessarily a preference. It's these students, she sees it in the real world. They have issues communicating, and
It helps.
It helps. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it definitely helps.
Absolutely.
So, all right, this last one that I want to talk about, James, I thought it was just a throwaway article. I don't know why I clicked on it. And I want to get the word out now.
Okay.
It says the Ohio Lottery has named a Springfield local elementary third grade teacher, Kelly Houston, as the Teacher of the Month. And I was like, oh, cool. Teacher of the Month. I see a lot of those.
Okay.
And I don't really think of any. I don't ever click on it. But this one was the Ohio Lottery. And I was like, what did the lottery give her? Because in your mind, you think, they make billions. And, are they giving them like a certificate and like a $5 off coupon to Chipotle? You know what I mean?
Personal pan pizza.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I read about it and said that they were nominated and they received the Partners in Education merchandise and the gift card from the Ohio Lottery. And that's all it said. And I was like, the gift card? What lame gift card is this? And it said, for more, to nominate a Teacher of the Month for the Ohio Lottery, click here. So I clicked there.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see what the heck they offer. Well, it turns out that they offer a pretty nice, substantial gift card. Teachers, $500.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they also have, though, I wanted to bring this to everybody's attention. You can nominate your students, and your students can get a $100 gift card, which you then tell them you owe me $50. I get 50%.
Smart.
But then an even bigger one. You can nominate your school, and the school would receive a $2,500 gift card.
Okay.
And that could pay for at least like one keyboard.
Just one.
Yeah, with how much they charge the schools. But
2 laptops.
Yeah. But actually, I thought this was pretty cool that they have like a monthly
That is
Partners
nice.
in Education. But you can nominate somebody. I mean, nominate them. It's real easy to do. I was looking at it, and it's interesting too because. It's a really cool the way they did this. That you can get $100, $500, or $2,500, and then they also have a link for Dolly Parton's Imagination Library of Ohio, where you can get a free book each month. I know you didn't know about that.
No,
You didn't know about Dolly Parton's books?
I did not.
Oh yeah, Dolly Parton. She's got a book program.
Okay.
And you can sign your child up, and they get a free book every month mailed to them.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Dolly helps the teachers.
She does.
She loves us. And
Dolly love the kids.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring this. So if you're in Ohio and you're a teacher, nominate yourself. Heck, I don't care. Nominate a student. Get them $100. Nominate your school. Get them $2,500. But I just figured, hey, I might. It's one of those things that I kind of was going to laugh at, and then in the end, I was like, I should get the word out.
Come on, what teacher couldn't use $500 though?
Yeah, exactly. I agree. All right. We are done with the teachers in the news.
Okay.
Now, the last 2 things I want to talk about, James.
All right.
I love your opinion on them. I would also love teachers' opinions on this. We just wrapped up this school year. Okay?
Yeah.
And I saw an interesting post online, made me reminisce. There was a teacher who said she had a student that was failing, not doing well.
Okay.
And basically said, you're failing. And they said, yeah, I know. But also other people are failing too. She's like, yeah, but this is about you. And she's like, no, it's about you as a teacher because you have a lot of kids failing. You can't fail us all. You ever heard that mentality? You can't fail all of us.
No.
Yes, I've heard it in schools a
Well,
lot.
I'm not a teacher, but I can't imagine be like, hey, man, it's your fault.
Yeah. So what I've seen, even with my own son, he'll get a grade on a test. And I'm like, 72? I'm like, come on, buddy, we got to ramp it up. And then the kid immediately goes, well, the other kids all got 72s too,
Yeah.
so it's fine. It's like an A. It's not.
It's like an egg.
Basically an A.
If you don't think about it, it's like an egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the teacher end of this, so a lot of kids have this, well, they can't fail us all. We all did bad. They're going to have to give us a retake of it. And I saw that a lot with grades. But I always would see it with students. They'd say, so everybody failed. What are you going to do to make it up? Sometimes I would go, you know what, my bad. This wasn't a good test. I'll retest this, or I'll do something else.
Okay.
Make up, or I'll curve it.
Yeah.
But what I noticed towards the end of my teaching is admin kind of joined that chorus. And I would get, sometimes I would put in grades for like a test. And I'd have 5 A's and 4 C's and 10 D's and F's. And then I would get a message from administration going, hey, you're failing a lot of kids. What are you doing wrong?
Wow.
And it wasn't ever like, well, I also have 10 kids that don't want to work right now. I'm trying to motivate them. But I feel like there's a pressure on teachers to not fail a lot of students.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds horrible because here's what I think I'm hearing. You're getting pressure to, when they fail, find a way to pass them.
Yeah.
When they fail, find a way to still promote them. What are they really learning if we keep doing that?
Right.
They're not getting the real information. We're setting them up to fail if we don't make sure they know the actual information that you're teaching.
Right.
When they get to college, they're not going to be prepared. They're going to fail eventually.
But admin would argue with you, well, then you failed them because they didn't all get A's.
Okay, it has to be a 50-50 thing, I think. And you correct me, teachers, if I'm wrong. 50% on the teacher's part where I give you the information. I do what I need to. I make myself available if you need help. And the other 50% has to be on the student to actually pay attention, do the work, and ask questions if they need it.
Yeah.
It can't be all one way and all the other.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. And now, teachers, I just want to ask this question. Do you think it's possible just to have a bad class?
Ooh.
You know, because, I mean, I've had those classes where I'm like, I got to work harder on this one. But I have a lot of kids that will fail.
Yes.
And admin comes to you and goes, what are you doing wrong? And I go, come sit in, you know?
That's fair.
Come check us out.
That's fair, yeah. Come look at it.
I'm trying to do everything right. It's just I have, in the words of Star Wars, I got a bad batch. And I'm trying to help them out. And I just don't, some teachers will argue and say, there's no such thing as a, and then there's other teachers that go, I can tell you right now exactly which class I had that was impossible. Yeah. You know, and sometimes they feed off of each other. You know, sometimes you got one or two or three, and it starts to like be like a symbiote. You know, it just spreads across the desk and grabs another kid. You're like, no, I thought I had you. You know, and then it's like, then it's a lot of failing. But the can't fail us all mentality, I think, is sometimes wrong.
That reeks of entitlement.
Yeah.
It does. Because what happens, I mean, you're a teacher, you go out there, you do your job, you try to, and the kids aren't doing well. So what do? You coach them privately. Then you notice they're not doing it. So what do? Reach out to the parents. And what if you don't get any help from them? So at what point does the teacher say, I've exhausted every single solution I can possibly do within my own power? What do I do now? Yeah. What am I left with?
And plus, it's hard to reflect on yourself sometimes, because I would get like a class, like sixth period, we get all, you know, really great test scores. Fifth period, a lot of them fail. And I'm like, I taught the same thing.
Yes.
I didn't change it up.
I didn't change anything.
You know, but then you're like, I guess I have to change it up. I guess they're not learning on doing and then it's so much more work. Yes. When you go differentiated instruction is what they call it. And that is so hard to do.
Yes.
Especially in classes that are as big as the ones we have, you know? So, I just wanted to ask you about that. Now, the second thing I want to ask about is I saw this one on Reddit. And I've seen this quite a bit before, is it okay to send sick kids back to class to wait till the mom is there to pick them up? So I'm fortunate that, you know, myself and Kate, we live right next to the school. I get that phone call, your kid threw up. Okay, on my way. See you in a minute.
Got it.
I'm there. And we've even walked to go get them and just go, all right, I'm going to go grab them. And that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, some parents, I'm in a meeting. It's going to be an hour. I can't get out of this meeting. Well, then the student, you know, is in the clinic. The nurse may have to take a break, or there might be so many kids in there, and they send them back. Hey, it's going to be an hour. Can you go back to your class and just put your head down on the desk? Then aren't you getting the other kids sick and the teacher and the class? So
let's have this conversation. Let's go ahead and do it. It's a double-edged sword because it starts before the kid even got to school. A lot of times as parents, you know your kid is sick, so you have the choice. Okay, what do? Do I call in from work and stay home with my sick kid? Or if they're not direly sick, do I still send them if I can't get out of it? So let's say I can't miss work because I have to support my family. I don't have sick days. I have to be at work. So you send them to school. So you're like, okay, they go to school. Let's say they're sick. Now you run the potential of getting everyone else's kids sick and the same scenario happening to them.
Yep.
So then when you're at that point, then they send them to the actual nurse, and the nurse is like, okay, you're sick. I'm going to call your parents. You got to go home because you're running a fever now. So then what if the parent can't be there for an hour? So you send them back to class, right? So you're right back to putting that kid with the rest of the kids. What's the alternative? Is it right? No, probably not. But it's hard because certain things that happen that you just can't avoid if you're a parent or if you're a teacher. Sick kids. It's going to happen. Until we come up with a system that's foolproof, or we have an isolation classroom for all the sick kids like they do in certain pediatrician's office, it's going to keep happening. So I don't know. It's a double-edged sword, man. What do you do at that point?
Yeah, and somebody commented and said, I don't think we learned anything from the pandemic, you know? Yeah. And it is hard to think about that. But yeah, I mean, I've shown up when my kid was sick and they have to call down to the class for him.
Yes.
And it's like, what? You know, why do they have to call down the class? Oh, they're in the class.
Why'd you send them back? Yeah.
And what I also find interesting is sometimes they'll send them to go get their backpack. I'm like, don't have them go walk through the school.
Yeah.
You know, have a healthy kid, bring it to them. And then we reduce exposure. But there's just little things that I would say, you know, hey, come on.
But ideally, here's what I would think would happen. Nurse stays in the nurse's office because they don't make deliveries. They're not doing house calls.
Right.
So the nurse should be there and let the kids stay there. Nurse puts on maybe a mask or whatever, or to keep herself safe too, until he goes home.
Yeah.
Yeah, ideally, stay with the nurse.
Some of the comments I actually was blown away. Said, my school makes us keep sick kids in class until their parents come to get them. I mean, and that's the thing is, we know they're sick. You know, somebody else commented this too and said, this kid's been in my class for months.
Yeah.
You know how they are.
Yeah, you know.
I can tell you right now, there's been so many times that I see kids just walk in the door and I go, they're sick.
Yeah.
And it's not even, it's like I can see your face and I know your normal demeanor. I know your normal color. I know your normal stance. We know it's
Can
there.
I share with you a parent's worst fear of sickness for a kid?
Okay.
It's not a cold. It's nothing like that. It is always a stomach virus.
Yeah.
Because what happens when a kid gets stomach virus? They throw up or it comes out the other end. And it's the worst scenario for a parent. So if you hear that a kid, hey, Mom, do you know Johnny, my friend? Yeah, he had to go home because he had the stomach flu. You're like, oh, God. Yeah, you're like, oh, God. You immediately grab the child.
Yep.
Code blue, everybody, code blue. And you just douse them in Purell.
The nearest trash can. Hold this. You know?
Yeah. Oh, my God. Have you not experienced that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, my. It's the worst feeling. Oh, God.
Now, one comment blew me away. What do you think about this, James? They said the new guideline at our school is that they only get sent home if they puke twice. You know, in case the first one was a fluke.
Devin! Are you telling me somewhere there's a school with a 2 puke minimum?
It's like, okay, but that was once. Clean it up.
Oh, my God.
You gotta get to lunch.
Who thought that through? Like that?
In case it's a fluke. You know how many times I've, accidentally just thrown up at school?
Not once.
I know. And somebody said, "Oh, a fluke puke," and I was like, "Oh, yeah." But
oh, that's awful. I can't wait to see the comments on that one. You got to do it twice.
Yeah. So, and then they say the nurse had to go to lunch. I see that a lot too. That the nurse had to go to lunch.
Okay,
so they
that's
send
why
them back.
she would. Got it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you should have somebody from the office sit in and say, "Look, all these kids are sick. Fill in temporarily unless somebody is gravely ill. Just have them sit here until I get back."
Absolutely.
I mean, that's got to be hard too for nurses because I mean, really, you're on call the whole time. I
didn't think about that. Yeah,
your lunch might be during kids' recess, and suddenly there's a jammed finger and ice, and somebody got kicked in the head, and all that kind of stuff. It happens all the time. I sat in the office one time, and man, I did not want to be that nurse because I sat in the office and I mean, it was just kids endlessly. A kid comes in, and they're covered in dirt, that they fell outside. Another kid, and I'm like, man, like it's just one after the other. And, yeah, so I don't know if they're sick. I think they should sit in the nurse's office.
So do I.
Coming back to class, especially puking, as long as they puke twice, I think that it's really. I'm just kidding. No, please. Once is enough.
God bless the kids in that school, man.
Right. All right, Mr. Yan, how can people find you, my friend?
As always, you can find me at James Yan Comedian. That's YON Comedian on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you guys for all the follows. I really enjoyed my time here on Board Teachers.
Yep, and then devincomedy.com. So I had just a few solo shows, and then I'm going to go into the Board Teachers Fall Tour. Also speaking at schools. Don't forget to check that out, teachersneedlaughter.com, if you're interested in having me come and speak at your school and give a little twist on the Keynote PD scenario. So thank you so much. Be sure to follow, like, subscribe. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode of Crying in My Car, a podcast for teachers. There might be a clip up there. There might be a clip down there. If it's got our face, if it's other people's stuff, come back. Don't click on that, But us, suggested things. That's us crying in my car. Devin, Siebold, James, Jan, bored teachers. Watch. New trailer for Indiana Jones. No, don't do that. Don't do that.